Hello everyone, and in this series of videos we're going to explore how to achieve perfect marks for AQA A English Lit, the A2 qualification, and we're going to be looking at paper 2 section B. So here's a brief reminder of the structure of the qualification itself. So there are two papers, both worth 40%. One is 3 hours in length, one is 2.5 hours in length. And then the course that makes up the remaining 20% of the qualification. Now, as you can see already, this paper is 2 hours and 30 minutes, and there are two sections, but 3 questions really. So you've got a choice of different options that you have to take based on the text that you've studied. The first section, which we've explored, is your anthology of poems and comparing those. And then section B is your prose and drama, but your contextual linking as well. So the first part will ask you to analyse an extract, which is based on fiction, and then part 2 will be your analysis of a play/prose text, depending on what you're focusing on. Now in this video we're going to focus more on part 2 of this, because section A is essentially very similar to what you did with your poetry, in that you have one text, look at this, analyse it please to answer the question. So let's see if you know what you're doing. So there's 2 tasks here to prove that you've revised. Task 1, how do you plan a response? Part 2 of section B. And then task 2, how do you write that perfect response? So when you're ready, note down your answers, discuss them, and then press play to resume. So you can see the marks are both 25 for section B, part 1 and part 2, and the marks are divided thusly. So you can see that AO1 and AO2 are the main bulk of the marks, 7 here. Obviously AO1 is your ability to actually write an essay which uses terminology accurately in a kind of more sophisticated way, and AO2 is your ability to analyse how evidence supports what you're saying is correct, again in a sophisticated way. We're looking for you to include context, social, historical, literary, in order to achieve 6 marks. We're looking for you to make connections between the texts that you've been asked to study, again in a perceptive way, thinking about how and why the writer presented them in that way, and then you're looking to make sure you include alternative interpretations. How do we plan an answer like this? Well, obviously to underline the key parts of your question, then note down whether you agree or disagree with the statements. So, how far do you believe that? Think about your 2 texts that you're going to be studying. Then what I would do is I'd look at your first text, note down the answers to the question, then think about your form, structure and language. And remember, if you've been revising properly, this should all come from memory. None of this should be coming from you flicking through the text. You may make minor reference to the books by flicking through them, obviously, to try and find the exact quote you need, but you should already have all this information, so you're simply copying from brain, pasting on paper. Then obviously let's think about your second text. You'll ask to explore at least 2 texts, similar, different, how, why. Go down your points, find the evidence to support whether you're right, and then proofread, obviously, once you've added your notes of analysis and context, because if you have a perfect plan, you'll have a perfect response. What does that perfect response look like? Well, let's begin to look at that in our next video. Thank you, well done.